Kaisho, hey everybody, Anne-Marie from Hello Basque here. On today's episode of the daily vlog where I learn Euskera, I want to do something different just because with everything going on in the world right now, it felt I feel silly, honestly. I feel silly sitting here every day and just working through Basque exercises when there's a lot going on. And everybody on the internet is telling us to use our voice, so I'm going to give my 2 cents on perhaps how the Black Lives Matter movement in some weird convoluted way, stick with me, has to do with learning Basque, has to do with Hello Basque, what I'm doing here every day. And that is, I want to talk about privilege, okay, because I can't speak to anybody else's experience but my own. And just the act of me sitting here every day and learning Euskera, the language of my ancestors, is a huge, huge privilege in many ways. I mean, I have the time to do this. I have the money, like I bought this camera, a tripod. I pay for this video editing software to make these videos, to share with you guys my journey in learning Basque and other content about the Basque country and Basque culture. But today I want to tell you a little bit about how I feel my learning Basque is evidence or a facet of the white privilege that I have in this country. And this is something I never ever thought about. Like, I grew up Basque. I grew up proud to be Basque. Like, it was just so normal to grow up in this Basque community. And I never really thought of it in these terms until a few years ago. I was having a conversation with my friend and her husband, who is a Black man from the South. And I love having conversations with them because they're always like super enlightening. And of course we talk about Hello Basque because it's a huge part of my life. And my friend's husband said to me, like, oh, that is so cool that like you're able to do that like you even know where your people come from. And I was like, well, yeah, like my dad literally is from another country, so it's like easy to know. And he was telling me that he personally would love to know where his ancestors came from. And he's done, the genetic testing to try to figure out where, but like him as a Black man in America, like there is no real way for him to know where his people came from because they were enslaved, dragged halfway across the world, and their family ancestry, their history was erased. The names of his ancestors and where they came from and what peoples they belonged to in Africa, like that knowledge is gone. And that really hit me. Like I never even thought about there's people in the world who don't know where they come from specifically. And sure, I mean, do I really know where my people came from specifically if we're going back 500 years? I personally don't because I haven't done that ancestry research, but I know distant cousins of mine who have traced back our family tree by 400, 500 years, and they have names and dates and places where people were born and married and died, all of these things. And that is information that is not available to many Black people in this country. And so I just think it's really interesting to think about how just the simple act, it seems so simple, of trying to learn the language of my grandparents and my father, like that in and of itself is like a really big privilege. And Euskera as a language especially, like with so many minority languages around the world dying out, to have the Basque government that has the resources to create curriculum around teaching Euskera and to promote these programs and offer them for free. You guys have seen, I've been sharing material that you can access online for free to learn Euskera. Like that's a huge privilege too. There are so many other people around the world who may actually know where their ancestors came from, but like the languages of their ancestors are just gone and there's no way for them to learn. So what's the point of all of this? Why am I bringing this up today? Like I said, I feel really stupid just sitting here and not mentioning anything about what's happening in the world. If you've been following me on social media, you know I've been going a little wild with reposting a lot of things on Instagram relating to the Black Lives Matter movement and a lot of the protests happening right now. And I just wanted to come at this issue from a different perspective and just share a little bit of what I think about white privilege, because it's mind-boggling to me, and maybe because I have had a lot of education in this area, like formally, but also on my own. I've done a lot of reading, reflecting, having conversations with people. It still boggles my mind that there's white people in the United States who don't either understand the concept of white privilege or don't believe it exists. And so I just wanted to open a discussion here and just tell you a little bit about what I think about it. But really, I think in this conversation too, a lot of times I have to stop myself from using the word lucky. And I don't know if anyone relates to that, but sometimes I think like, oh, I'm so lucky that my dad came to the US. I'm so lucky that I have a Basque community in San Francisco. I'm so lucky that I can learn Basque, but I think the word privilege is really important to think about, because it's not luck that I'm able to learn Basque or be proud of my heritage or know where I come from. It's not luck. It's part of a system that's been designed to allow me the privilege to do these things that other people in American society, Black people in particular, the system has been designed so that they do not enjoy those same privileges. And maybe this feels like something really small right now compared to everything going on and the bigger issues at play here, but I think talking about privilege is really important in recognizing the system. Because if we're going to change anything in this country, we have to look at it and see it for what it is. And so this is just my invitation for anybody watching. If you want to spend some of this time like me, reflecting back on conversations you've had, experiences you've had, and just thinking about where your privileges are that you have in your life that maybe other people don't, and keep that in mind when you're watching the news or talking to people or just praying. Honestly, I know there's a lot of Christian people who follow me on Instagram, self-proclaimed Christians, and so I just want to invite you to do some reflection today on perhaps how we as Basque Americans, or even if you're watching this from the Basque country, how some of the ways society is built up to benefit you. And if this is like a total new concept for you, there's tons of information where you can read more about this. I have a link in the description below to my Instagram account. I have a story highlight there called BLM with a bunch of the things I've been posting on Instagram if you want to read more, where you can educate yourself on these matters. And let me know in the comments what you think about this. I don't want to read comments about like whole discussions about the protests and is it right and is it wrong, but what about this and that, because the internet is full of that. And so I just invite people in the comments to reflect on privilege today. And if you feel inclined to leave a comment, please be respectful, like always. I don't really know if I'm gonna keep going with this daily vlog tomorrow or the next day. I've been feeling very not good the last few weeks, and so this is, I guess, a small part of me sharing what I've been thinking about. So in conclusion, Black Lives Matter. And if anybody who's watching this, anybody who follows me, is quick to say all lives matter, just remember that Black people are part of all lives too. And I hope that you will join me, if you are white, my fellow white people, in listening to what's actually going on right now in this country, to finding sources of information that are not major cable news media outlets that are just trying to sensationalize everything and tear us apart. I hope you are doing the research, educating yourself, and having difficult conversations. It's very uncomfortable to talk about race and to recognize ways in which perhaps we have had privileges or even advantages over other people just solely based on the color of our skin in this country. So with that, thank you for listening, and I hope you're staying safe.